Los Angeles? It's a machine that kills people. This was Gene Hackman's last comment about the place that made him famous, and that he chose to never go back to. He didn't hold back at all in his last talk. Everyone thought what he said, but no one was brave enough to say it. About the bad parts of the business, about the reason he vanished. Also, don't think you know the story. Part 1. The last show. What Hollywood did to turn its back on Hackman. No more cheers. No more bright stage lights. No more calls from important people. In 2004, Gene Hackman quit working in movies. An abrupt absence that no one really paid attention to. After they did that, there were only whispers left. He was gone, like he had never been. It's like Hollywood had never been. It's like Hollywood had never heard of Gene Hackman, the man whose famous parts made him famous over many years. But why? Why would a great give up everything when he could still make a difference? Or, should I ask, did Hollywood first turn its back on him? This was back in the early 2000s. Hackman was still a strong name. Big directors still wanted to cast him in movies that would make a lot of money, but he never replied to their requests. A lot of people said Hackman was tired. He was said to no longer be interested in playing. People said he wanted to get away from movies and the busy life of Hollywood to spend time with his family. But it wasn't that easy to tell the truth. Hackman told the truth about why he quit in his last interview, which was a rare and surprising one. Plus, it wasn't just his choice. Does Gene Hackman still have a place in Hollywood? The movie business only likes you if you can help them. Hackman said that with a small smile on his face. His eyes were not funny, though. He spent his whole life creating complicated, deep, and emotional characters that came to life. He added so much to movies that no one could have made them without him. But Hollywood started to change over time. Scripts became more like recipes. Blockbusters were more interested in special effects and making money than in having great acting. Icons like Gene Hackman don't fit the new age, even though they are still around. He was no longer needed in Hollywood. Hackman was still getting lines before he left, but he could only barely smile when he looked at them. They were no longer going to fight him. They wouldn't let him play deep, introspective roles like they used to. He didn't want to tell those stories in those movies because they were just for money. Even worse, some producers he had worked with started to dislike him again. These were the same people who used to say he was one of the best actors. A producer once told him, "Gene, you can still act, but Hollywood isn't the same as it used to be." There are several ways to understand what that sentence means. They might have just meant that the market had changed. Or they might have been saying in a subtle way that Gene Hackman was no longer a name that would bring in money. Hackman knew it was time to leave when he saw that. It was important to him that he didn't fade away in a field that had once respected him. He didn't want to play small parts just to be on TV or movies. He didn't want to wait for younger directors who didn't really understand how important acting was to feel sorry for him. He decided to leave before they could fire him because of this. No one noticed that Gene Hackman was retiring because there wasn't a news conference to say so. No movie was advertised as his last. He quit taking on roles altogether. When the light comedy Welcome to Mooseport came out in 2004, no one thought it would be the end of Gene Hackman's starring career. There was no goodbye or tribute from Hollywood, and there was silence for a long time afterward. Hackman had been gone from the world he used to rule for a long time before people started to notice his disappearance. The truth is that Gene Hackman wasn't the only famous person who got caught up in this. Many stars have been honored by Hollywood, but as time goes on, new ones come out to replace them. They aren't kids anymore. They don't go with the new styles. No longer are they names that bring in billions of dollars. That's why Hollywood forgets about them. Gene Hackman was one of many people who had everything and then lost some of it. Hackman may not have cared about those things, though. He wasn't the type to hold on to his fame. For him, being on screen again wasn't something he would do for anything. So he didn't wait for Hollywood to feel sorry for him. Instead, he left in quiet. He chose a quiet life where he could do what he pleased without thinking about what critics would say or how much money he would make at the box office. And maybe it was the best choice he ever made in the end. Hollywood may have turned its back on Gene Hackman, but their stories will never be forgotten. But for people who really love movies, he never went away. He is still playing those parts. People still watch the movies he was in over and over, which inspires new artists. Even though Hollywood may have forgotten about him, the movie business will always remember him. Because real tales never really go away. Part 2, The Cost of Being Great, What Hackman Had to Give Up. Bright stage lights, endless clapping, and high praise from critics. That's what people think of when they hear the name Gene Hackman. He was a Hollywood star and never played a boring part. But there's a truth that not everyone sees behind all that glitz and glitter. Getting ahead always costs something. Even though Hackman had everything, he couldn't get away from that hard truth. Hackman had big plans when he first started working in movies. He did a lot of different things, like warehouse work, repair work, and marine work, to fund his acting career. But big dreams mean making big compromises. When Hackman moved to Hollywood, he slowly learned that to be a great actor, he has to give up more than just time. A lot of my time was spent living through the roles I played, but now that I think about it, I'm not sure I ever really lived for myself. Picture a day in the life of Gene Hackman when he was at his best. Every day, from morning to night, he was in roles. He learned about characters, tried out different voices, walked around a lot, and even changed how he thought to fit the complicated roles he played. One movie was over and a new one started. It took a lot of work, late nights and long days on set to get just one scene right. Everything was geared toward one thing, art. And when his name showed up in great movies like The French Connection, The Conversation, and Unforgiven, everyone saw a happy Hackman. Behind that, though, his personal life slowly fell apart. Hackman was married 3 times. Faye Maltese was his first wife. They were married for 30 years but finally split up. Some people say that you will lose your family if you love art more than they love you. Hackman was a dad to 3 kids, but he said he wasn't always a good dad. He didn't have much time for them when he was making movies. I gave up the most important years of my kids' lives to get ahead in my work. A simple sentence that is full of sorrow. Hackman had a hard time keeping up with not only family but also friends. The movie business isn't like other jobs where you can see the same people every day and become friends with them. Too many things change too fast in Hollywood. You work with someone today, you'll be making a new movie on a different land tomorrow. Each movie is a different group of people and a different world. When the movie is over, everything goes away too. People don't tell you that you don't exist after the cameras stop rolling. When the show is over, you are no longer the person you were. As soon as you come back to reality, it can be very empty. Hackman learned that the life of a famous actor wasn't what people thought it would be like when he stepped away from the spotlight. People saw him in great movies, but no one knew what went on behind the scenes. He ate alone in hotel rooms, missed calls with family, and had days when no one but the roles he played knew who he was. Even though Hackman was very famous, he still felt like he didn't belong. You may be a star on screen, but in real life, you're just a person who goes through hard times that no one can understand. The price Hackman paid in a big way was his health. His body was worn down by years of hard shooting, action scenes that could be dangerous, days of shooting without sleep, and the mental stress of playing complicated characters. Hackman was getting tired of all of that over time, and he knew he couldn't go on. Gene Hackman got everything in Hollywood: respect, fame, and awards, but the most important things were taken away: family and time, friendship, and a part of who he really is. Hackman learned that success didn't come for free in the end. You have to pay a lot to get to the top. If you want to be a hero, you have to give up things. And now that everything is over, the only question that remains is, was it all worth it? Part 3, The Hollywood Trick.